Hey guys, Rob, Sigma 3 Survival School. We're out doing survival trapping class today, so I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on, making primitive traps. So if you've watched any of these, make sure that you catch the rest of them. We're going to be doing a whole lot. So today I want to show you how to build a live bird trap. And this is an extremely good primitive trap because, you don't need a whole lot of tools to build one. You can basically, all you need is a couple of pieces of cordage and a way, you just collect sticks and stack them up like a square pyramid. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start my base pieces. And the reason that we like this trap so much in comparison to other traps is, one, the ease of construction, and two, birds are extremely easy to get. It doesn't take a whole lot of bait. It just seems like birds are kind of naturally curious creatures, and I tend to get them in traps like this on a pretty regular occasion. So this is one of the first traps I'm going to go to, along with my Paiute, my 2-stick deadfall, and figure 4s and stuff like that. So I'm going to get this started, and we'll come back and I'll show you the first step. The next step in the process, you take your 2 sticks, and depending on the size of the trap you want to create, obviously, pick the size that you want. If you want a smaller trap, cut it shorter. If you want a bigger trap, cut them longer. Tie you a couple of pieces of cordage to both sides of this, making sure that they're of even length so that you've got a good square here. And then basically all you're going to do is take it and flip it on itself like this. And what we're going to do is create a square pyramid. And you're going to have progressively smaller and smaller sticks that you're going to be placing under here. So I'm going to get a bunch of those pre-cut, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Alright, so all we're doing is basically stacking this up like Lincoln logs, and as you go, you're going to be slamming these in, making sure that they're tight, stretching your cordage out, because we want to get as many sticks in here as we possibly can. And I'm just going to keep building this up, and I'll show you once we get a little bit closer to the top. Yeah. You'd be surprised what animals can fit themselves through.
As you go up, the sticks are going to be progressively smaller.
Yeah. Okay, so after you get your square pyramid stacked up, don't worry too much about tightening everything up until you get closer to the end, because it's going to take some modifying anyway. So right now we're going to lay horizontal sticks all the way across here and build a little platform that we can attach a rock to make this a little bit heavier. For birds, we don't have to worry about making it heavier. They aren't capable of lifting this up. But if we were making a larger trap for small game like rabbits, squirrels, stuff like that, we would want to make sure that we would weight this. Here's our finished cage. You want to make sure that you jam-pack the sticks really tightly together. Depending on what type of game you're going after, whether it be birds or whether it be small game like rabbits, will kind of determine how tight your grid needs to be. If it's smaller game, obviously it needs to be tighter than it would be for, or if it's a bird, it needs to be tighter than it would be for smaller game. So right now I'm going to construct the trigger system. The trigger system is fairly simple, but one thing to keep in mind is whichever side that you're going to have actually leaning on the ground needs to have the sticks flush cut so that it's not sitting lopsided. And right now I'm going to work on the trigger. So here's our basic trigger setup. It's very similar to a figure 4, except without the horizontal bar. And I like to teach this. I know a lot of different variations of trap triggers, but not everybody can remember all these trap triggers, and not everybody does this stuff for a living. So if we can take one trigger, simplify it down and use it for a lot of uses, you've got a lot more chance of having it stick in your brain. And all you've got here is just a number 7 notch, and you've got a flat side on both ends. This is your top piece. And then you've got a main bar, your upright bar that everything sets on, and it just sets like that. And then we'll come up in and get a close-up and show you how the trigger system works exactly. So the trick with setting these primitive traps is, one, to make sure that all of your trap parts are perfectly constructed, and that each of your notches is square There's no off points. And it sets just like that. And you're going to want to put your bait back here in the area that the animal's going to have to work at it. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that put a double flared stick, which is a pretty good trigger system in itself, but the problem I see with it is that the animal is tripping the trigger potentially before they're entirely into the trap. So I like to make sure they're all the way in the back where the food is before they have the chance to set it off. And basically, you know, they come in here, they want to get the bait, and then it falls on them, and they're captured, and you've got live game. And the benefit of a live trap versus a deadfall or a strangle type trap is that, you know, your meat stays fresh. You can keep this thing as long as you need it. You know, like we were just up at the cliff line the other day, and we ran into two like giant little buzzards, little baby buzzards that may have been 10 or 15 pounds apiece. I mean, these things were monsters. And, you know, we would want to save those because you don't necessarily want to eat one, and you don't want to have to jerky your food all the time either, because you lose you know, a lot of the actual overall content. It shrinks down quite a bit. So having live game traps in your survival, you know, toolbox is always a good idea. So if you're going after larger game, say you're not going after birds or something like that, and it's something that might be able to physically lift your trap up, there's a lot of things that you can do in order to prevent that. One thing that you can do is actually to take sharpened sticks and to drive them in through here so that when the animal bucks up and down, they're hitting into spikes, and you know, it changes their mind about bucking up too much. Or you can basically just take a rock and strap it down to your main platform here and just tie it, you know, with a couple overhand knots or whatever, and that's going to help weight the overall trap down. This is just you know, one of the many techniques we teach, you know, for survival trapping. It's probably one of my favorite because it has so many uses and can catch so many different things. So make sure that you stay tuned for the rest of our survival trapping series, and you know, if you support what we're doing, please help, you know, support us by subscribing. Thanks.